Ohtani has been a true two-way performer for 3 seasons. Ruth only pitched and hit for 2. Look at those two-way seasons side by side if you wish. Ruth a better ERA at 2.55, but Ohtani's close, 2.84. And after that, Ohtani sweeps. Lower whip, lower batting average against, a higher WAR, all with more starts and more innings pitched. But Mad Dog, you did just say that pitching is really different between the eras. So how do we trust these stats? Well, let's look at a stat called ERA+. ERA Plus rates players in the context of their own eras. It takes a pitcher's stats and compares them to the league average. Above or below 100 means you are that much better or worse than the rest of the league at that particular time. Well, Ruth's career ERA Plus is 112. That's pretty good. But Ohtani's, it's 151. That is excellent.
He's been able to be one of the best players in the sport at both roles simultaneously. That's just something that, baseball's been played for 150 years. There's a reason that nobody's been able to do that. That not even Babe Ruth at his peak was able to quite do that. That's the separator to me.
Ohtani really is a unicorn. No one's ever truly done what Shohei Ohtani has done for this duration of time.
Ruth pitched 5 full seasons as a pitcher. So if you want just innings, Ruth has Ohtani beat at the moment. But if you look at the true two-way success, which we'd argue is the whole reason for this debate, then Ohtani is already surpassed Ruth in this regard. So let's score pitching for Shohei. Coming up, how would Ohtani fare if he actually faced Ruth?
Babe Ruth would have knocked Ohtani on his ass in a heartbeat.
Even with 100 years between them, we can line up Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani's numbers with some success. But here is something else to chew on. In 1924, Major League Baseball combined to hit 896 home runs, and even if you double it based on the amount of teams, it still pales in comparison to the 2024 number, which is 5,400. That is a different game. So what does it mean to compare Ruth and Ohtani as athletes? Is it even a fair fight?
Look, athletes are better right now. Is Ohtani a better physical specimen athlete than Babe Ruth was? Yes. Just look at them.
Oh, there's no doubt that Shohei Ohtani is facing a much higher grade of baseball player, bigger, stronger, faster, and better than ever.
If you showed Babe Ruth a 101 mile per hour splitter, it would be like an alien coming down in a spaceship in our front yard. Like we would be, holy shit, I didn't think something like this ever could exist.
The average major leaguer in 1920 was 4 inches shorter and 25 pounds lighter than the average player today, and we all know the reasons why. Well, let's send Ohtani back in time. He's going to crush the competition, correct?
Are we just going into a portal? Babe's here, Shohei's there. Current state? Are we doing... You know what? I can run with this because unfortunately I hang out with enough baseball losers that we cover topics like this.
Part of the thrill of baseball.
There's an assumption that if a modern player went back in time and faced guys that just physically were nowhere near the caliber of athlete players are now, that they would have immediate success.
You drop Shohei in the 1920s and it's no contest. Like, he would be the best pitcher you've ever heard of. He'd be the best hitter you've ever heard of. He'd be probably the fastest guy you've ever heard of. Like, yeah, I'm all in on 1920 Shohei.
But the game was played so much differently then. You know, the way that guys would pitch, the way that they would attack you, it would feel like an almost completely different game.
Let him go back and hit when the spitball was legal. And the windmill windups and the guys spitting on the balls and rubbing it up with tobacco and using one ball that was scuffed up and they could make it dance and move. Ohtani would get knocked on his back. That was part of the game, by the way. He would get thrown at. Ruth, he'd look at Ohtani up and down and throw one right under his neck. Babe Ruth would have knocked Ohtani on his ass in a heartbeat, maybe twice or 3 times in one at-bat.
They didn't have batting gloves, protective equipment. They didn't have helmets, for God's sake.
You want to talk about a different era? In 1920, Ray Chapman took a fastball to his head and died 2 days later.
You know, Dave, and it's certainly not a weakness, but it's something I thought about knowing you were going to come on the show today, is that listen, he's another big stick. I mean, if he hits 30 bombs for you, it wouldn't surprise me. But as you know, you can be as gifted as Freddie Freeman or Ohtani and struggle in the postseason because the pitching's so good in the postseason. Do you worry about with this team that you have so much power? Does it hurt your ability to manufacture runs without, like I said last night, the Yankees had 9 singles. I said Aaron Judge was 0 for 5. I'm like, that's actually in a weird way encouraging. Do you worry that, man, we got a lot of big sticks? Can we still manufacture runs? Do you think about that?
You know what? I do. And I think that was more of an indictment probably on teams that we had a few years ago in the sense of we just slug and we can't get hits. And it's interesting that, the batting average has been devalued over let's say the last 10 years. But when you get into the postseason, people want base runners. They want to get hits. And how do you drive in a run when you're facing the best pitching? And I will say this is that our guys, to a man, know how to get on base. They control the strike zone, and they know how to get hits. And so that's talking about getting a hit, with 2 strikes, with guys in scoring position with 2 outs, facing good pitching, knowing how to hit the outfield grass. And so I don't worry about that with this ball club. And I'll tell you this right now is 1 through 9, it's a relentless lineup. And so that pitcher is going to be at 100 pitches in the 4th, 5th inning. And that's a grind. So I think that with our lineup, we should be able to get to starters and get to the pen early and see how it goes. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about, just a slug because I do feel we can manufacture runs if we need to.
With Shohei Ohtani, do you have a game plan going in, or is it one of those, we're just going to communicate? We're going to see how he feels? You've got essentially a player that does something nobody else does. How do you manage it opening day on? Do you have to be super communicative in this relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to start the 5th game of the season, and he's already up to 85 pitches. So I think for me, as far as managing the game when he pitches, we're going to manage it. I'm going to manage it the way to help us win a game and obviously manage his stress in a particular game, the pitch count, all that stuff. And then as far as the hitting, last year we started out with him with throwing 1 inning and then repeating that a couple of times to then build to 2, then 3. So it didn't really impact the DH role, where now the jumping off point is 5, 6 innings. So that's something we're going to monitor and see that we're not going to be beholden to like he has to DH every time he pitches. We'll kind of manage that, see how he feels. But, yeah, there's constant communication going on. But, man, what a player.
Yeah. What was your opening message in spring for this group of star-studded Dodgers? What is coming off back-to-back titles? Can you have a new message? What is the message?
Yeah, some of it is like, the old, continuing to reinforce that. Our guys do a very good job of minding the little things. And I think it's just the whole idea of just winning a baseball game. And, whether it's spring training, it's game 7 of the World Series, it's opening day in 2026. We have a certain standard of excellence. And I think that even when you watch us, Colin, how we play the game, run the bases, play defense, it matters. How we practice. I think the message as far as keep the blinders on, get the blinders on, look forward. I reference a greyhound. When a greyhound's in a race, they're chasing the lure, and they're not looking at who the competition is to the side. And I think that the lure is right there, that trophy, and we're chasing that trophy, and it doesn't matter who's beside us, who's behind us, who's chasing us. And I think it's just more of just keeping the focus on ourselves.
Well, you've only got 2 trophies behind you when you just won your 3rd as a manager. Where's the 3rd?
Yeah, the 3rd. See, the trophies, they got to come back. So I'm trying to move so you can see them. The 3rd one is en route. So I got 20, 24, 25 is en route. Tomorrow we'll get our 25 World Series rings. So hopefully we do this again in 12, 14 months, and then I'll have 4 behind me.
Okay, just cross your fingers on Amazon. You never know; they're usually on time. You just hope they deliver. It's great seeing you, and I know you got a little golf in, but you're just a credit to the sport, and you're a gentleman, and I love you coming on the show, and I appreciate it. Thanks, Dave.
I love what you do, man. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Dave Roberts already in the office. They're heavy favorites to three-peat. And listen, man, that Edwin Diaz in the closing it for this team, that was we said it before, 26 saves last year. Think about that. You win a World Series. They went into the playoffs having blown 26 saves. So it was a Dodger fans. You know, it's so funny because when the bullpen struggles, the manager gets all the heat. You're not pulling the right levers. It's like you got to get people out. There's only so much a manager can do.